What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ango Show. I am live. We are talking AEW Dynamite tonight. Wow. AEW just swerved the entire world because we got a title change in the main event. It was the Guns versus the Acclaim. The Acclaim dropped the AEW Tag Team Championships, and obviously everybody is quite shocked by today's result. I think this was a very, very interesting choice, but no, I'm not going to bury it. If you're expecting me to, sorry, my friends, this is what storytelling is all about. And, listen, I thought Dynamite tonight was actually really solid. AEW is keeping it up consistently. Now what? This is 8 weeks in a row where I would say AEW's been doing good television. I'm sure some people are going to hate the fact that I have to praise this match, but I absolutely will do so because for a lot of reasons, and I'll break it down. Tonight's show was solid, though. There was some good stuff. Kind of like WWE Raw this past weekend. I would say there wasn't anything like, oh my God, it was must see, but AEW had a very solid episode. Continuity seems to be a really good thing right now with AEW, and I am a fan of that. Obviously, it has its flaws, but there was some good stuff. Guys, if you want to support the channel, definitely consider doing so. Ango Goes Hollywood. We're working on going to WrestleMania this year. So if you guys want to support the channel, any sort of super chat, merchandise purchases, ad revenue, all of that good stuff is going immediately to the WrestleMania fund. 100% of it. We're trying to work on that. So if you guys want to support the channel, feel free to do so by doing that. With that being said, we're going to pull up some comments because obviously we like interacting with our viewers. So let's do that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, Michael, to the stream. Appreciate you stopping by. We got a very, very interesting comment here. Not happy the Acclaimed lost. And guys, here's the thing, man. I understand why people would be upset about this. I understand that some people aren't a fan of the Acclaimed losing. But for weeks and weeks and weeks, they've been telling this story. I mean, for a while now, they've been telling the story about the Guns and the Acclaimed. We thought maybe there was a chance that Billy Gunn would actually turn on the Acclaimed. That did not happen, which was kind of nice to see that AEW didn't do the predictable thing there. Now, eventually that could change at some point. Obviously, there's more to this story. I do believe that for sure. But this was a very good way to get people talking about AEW, for better or for worse. I think some people are going to hate this. Some people are going to love it. But when it comes to the storytelling factor, I think AEW delivered the right outcome. Is it the best time? I don't know if I would say it's the best time, truthfully, but I would say this is the right outcome. The idea that AEW is going to have these belts change hands on a random Dynamite, I think it's a good thing. There's been a story that was building up to this moment. The Acclaimed lost. Obviously, it had the shenanigans. I can understand why people don't like the shenanigans, but they didn't just randomly have the Guns beat the Acclaimed in a clean way. So that was justifiable, obviously. But for the most part, I would say this was very solid booking. We got a super chat from Albert Pons for $5. He says, if TK has a plan for this, I am okay with it. This can be a make or break for AEW for them. Takeshita and Rush are both super over with the fans. Yeah, so I do actually agree with this sentiment. I do agree 100%. I think this is good storytelling. I feel like they delivered the right outcome. Again, I'm going to praise AEW here. It might not be the popular opinion, but as always, based on my beliefs with pro wrestling, I'm very consistent with my beliefs. I always talk about storytelling and why it matters. And this right here is a very true statement. If Tony Khan did this title change without a plan going forward, then it's an issue, right? You have to have plans, especially when you're doing something like this, because the tag team division is such a stacked division on paper. But when it comes to booking, it seems like there's been quite a bit of focus more on the Trios Championship belt. I'm hoping that this title change does result in some pretty big plan. I don't know what to expect from that plan. I don't know exactly what Tony Khan is thinking when it comes to this specific division, but I would say that AEW really has to have a plan here. Otherwise, it could be make or break. I think a lot of people are loving the Acclaimed. I think a lot of people who watch AEW, and this is just the reality, a lot of those super hardcore fans don't care about storytelling as much as they care about match quality. The Guns are very much an entertainment-based tag team. So I definitely agree with this. I think Tony Khan really has to have a plan here, and hopefully he does have a plan, because if he does not have a plan here, the response will be met with negativity. I mean, just immediately looking at Discord and looking at Twitter, the response has been absolutely mixed. And that's what happens, man. The Acclaimed are one of the top tag teams in professional wrestling right now. They're probably one of the more over acts. Max Caster comes out with great bars. The reactions are incredible. But at the same time, too, logically speaking, the Guns should be the ones to take the belts off the Acclaimed. And that's what happened tonight. I agree with you 100%, Albert. I think you're right on the money. This is a very, very, very this is a very make or break for AEW. I mean, that's really what it is. I don't know how else to say it. It's make or break for AEW. If they don't have a plan and nothing follows up with this, and these guys are just transitional champs and they move on to something else, that's an issue. But look at Top Flight and what they did with AR Fox tonight. Like, they're a really good tag team. There's a lot of potential there. Obviously, you have quite a few tag teams in AEW. You have JAS. You have so many different options here. But what are the plans? And I think that's really important for AEW to really, really, really be honed in on the plans here, because if not, it's not going to be a good thing. Shout out to Albert for the super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Lots of great comments in here. Let's get them up here. Yes, Michael says, this is your reminder. The more trios matches I see, the less I want WWE to have trios matches. Fantastic match in terms of in-ring stuff. The 6-man tag, the trios match, I mean, it was incredible, right? Top Flight, AR Fox against the Elite. It's incredible. And it's incredible because all of these guys are super athletic. They are very, very talented in the ring. But I actually agree with this. It's one of my criticisms right now. And, I'm not a hater. I'm just being freaking honest here. Like, the more and more that I see these trios matches, there's less time for things to breathe. Things are happening in the ring. People are getting their spots in. You literally have Darius Martin and you have Dante Martin and you have the Young Bucks, and they're incredible performers. But a lot of the stuff that they're doing, and the reason why it's over, is because of the in-ring ability, which I think the in-ring stuff is great. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want WWE to do that. I want WWE to really stay focused on the entertainment and the storytelling portion of the product. That's just the way I view wrestling. That's what I prefer out of wrestling, right? When I watch television, when I watch movies, I care about the storylines. I care about the storytelling and how we got from A to Z. And I thought this match was incredible. But when you see people waiting for spots and setting up spots and everything kind of has like this choreographed feel, I don't even hate that. I don't hate that by any means. But my issue is I prefer the other way much more. I don't want WWE to be all trios matches, launching trios championship belts, and then they're doing the same thing. You know what I mean? I thought this match was absolutely sick. These guys are absolutely incredible, but I do think it's really important for people to realize that, like, when spots like this are happening, there is a disconnect. There is, right? There is. You're just waiting to see when they're going to kick out and all the false finishes. It gets to the point where you're not really watching a story being told. You're not seeing it unfold at all. In fact, you're just watching guys go back and forth and do cool stuff in the ring. And again, I like that stuff, but I prefer more of the storytelling portion of it. And I think this is one of those things right now with AEW. This trios match was absolutely awesome. Again, I can keep praising it. I think AR Fox, I mean, definitely this guy. I love seeing AR Fox on Dynamite. He's killing it. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, always impressive as always. But I just think there is some little bit of a disconnect because I already know the Elite are going to win. What is the story here? What is the end result? The end result is the Elite win, and that's it. Then they're just going to go on and have another great match, And I think that's an issue with trios championship matches. I think that's an issue that AEW has. But at the end of the day, if other people are happy with it, I guess just keep doing it. It's not going to impress me as much because, not that they care, but my point is it's not going to keep me watching every single week. Like right now, for example, if somebody tells me, and I felt this way a lot, AEW and WWE television has been really good lately. But if somebody told me, oh my God, Ango, you missed the most incredible episode of WWE Raw, or you missed the most incredible episode of AEW Dynamite, and I'm going to be like, what happened? And they're going to be like, well, the Elite had a sick match. Like, that's cool, And I'll definitely go back on DVR to watch it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to be mad that I didn't watch it live. That's just not the way I consume wrestling. You know what I mean? Um, but it's one of those things. This was a great match. I won't even lie to you guys. I like I said, it doesn't have the storytelling and stuff that I'm looking for, but from the in-ring perspective, this is as good as it gets. And AR Fox is just so incredible. In terms of in-ring stuff tonight, AEW was also very, very beautiful. So some very interesting stuff here. Strong Style Ninja says AEW needs a US tag title, but then we also get Mr. Chrono who says AEW don't need more titles, they need less titles. This is definitely a big debate for a lot of wrestling fans. Me personally, I think if you're going to have more championships, I'm okay with that idea. I'm okay with the philosophy of having more championships. It's something I've definitely been against a long time ago. And as time goes on, I kind of get more warmed up to the idea of having more championship belts. But you can't just have a championship belt to sit there and do nothing. And right now, with the way that TNT championship belt is being booked on AEW television, I actually agree with Mr. Corona. I don't think you need more titles right now. Every championship belt needs to have a focus. And that's why I loved the Guns beating the Acclaimed. There's a focus now on this division. And I'm pretty happy about that. But it goes back to what Albert was saying earlier in his super chat. You got to keep that in mind. Like, if they don't have a plan here and the Guns just won the championship belt, and I'm going to throw in my 2 cents, if the Guns are just going to be if they're going to be transitional champions, I'm not really interested in that. That's not something that really brings me excitement or interest whatsoever. I believe we got a couple more super chats. Hopefully I'm not skipping any. Just trying to keep up with the chat. Superman Bass Fisher says nothing, actually. Never mind. I see the comment. Okay, the comment is separate. So Superman dropped $1 super chat, and then he also says, "Will Papa Gun jump ship now?" That could be a really interesting part of the storyline. But would it happen? Would it make sense logically? Right? You have his own kids hitting him with the tag titles, the ref bump. Again, I understand why people don't care for the shenanigans, but I thought it was a good way to justify them winning. Their heels, right? They're beating the most over tag team in the world. You got to have the shenanigans in there. But Papa Gun, daddy ass, he got hit by his own kids. So, I did like that layer before the match. Billy Gunn was like, "Hey, I'm not coming down to the ringside." And then, of course, the ref bump hits. Then he comes out. Does he jump ship now? I think it should. I think he should, honestly. I think that is something that should definitely happen. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if AEW doesn't have him do that, I don't think they're making the wrong decision, because look at how over daddy ass, scissor me daddy ass, all of these things have become, right? There's merchandise. I'm sure the merchandise is selling. They're getting crazy reactions. So I can see them having him jump ship. It might actually be a mistake to do that because of how over the Acclaimed is. But again, Tony Khan kind of does things in his own way. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you, Superman Bass Fisher, for the $1 super chat. Appreciate that. Cameron Johnson dropping a $2 super chat. Don't know if there's a comment associated with that, but Cameron, thank you for the $2 super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Let's see. There's a lot of comments going on, so I'll definitely do my best to get to them. Big MGM says AEW don't need any more belts, man. It makes them feel less prestigious if everyone has one. Well, it depends, right? Like, they have a big roster. WWE has a big roster. So if you have a massive roster and every championship belt it has a purpose, right? Like, if, for example, and I'm just using this as an example, maybe a US tag title wouldn't make sense, right? They have tag titles, they have trios titles. But if AEW said, "Hey, we want to do a light heavyweight championship," right? I'd be okay with that. It's going to exclude most of the roster. Well, not actually most of the roster. AEW has a relatively small roster in terms of like physical size. But if AEW said, "Hey, we're going to do a light heavyweight championship," well, you have the light heavyweight championship, the TNT championship, All Atlantic championship, and you have the world championship. In terms of single titles, some people might look at that like a lot, like that's a lot, right? But if they had a junior heavyweight division and they're building that division for this specific title, you probably won't see those guys go for a TNT championship or an All Atlantic championship. But if that championship belt is being defended regularly and there's storylines and things being built for this championship, it could make sense to do it. I think this is one of those things where everybody has a preference. But I just don't know right now if there's a need for more championship belts. I wouldn't be against it, but it could make sense. Very, very interesting comment from Fast Money Media. Nobody wants to see someone be a champion for 6 months to a year. It's just too much talent for those long title reigns. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of shorter title reigns. I'm not a fan of titles being hot potatoed, which is something that I kind of complained about with Darby Allin, the TNT Championship, Samoa Joe, and everything that kind of transpired there. So I feel like this is one of those situations where you are right, but you cannot hot potato the championship. But yeah, you have a huge roster. And the thing is with AEW, it's like, and this is something I talked about with WWE. At times, WWE and AEW's only focus is the booking around those championship belts that they have. And I don't like that. I think there's got to be more storylines for the mid card or the lower card that don't involve a title. We've seen WWE really improve with that lately. AEW and the women's division has improved immensely with that, but in other areas, that's kind of where they struggle. It's not bad. It's definitely not a negative thing. That just has a lot to do with TV time and obviously having a large roster. WWE Fanatic says AEW needs an on-screen official like WWE has Adam Pearce. Yeah, I actually do agree with this. I do think I do think that makes a lot of sense for AEW. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of authority figures. They feel like it's played out, and I totally understand that criticism. Adam Pearce is less of the story and just more of the person who pieces things together. You don't really see him as an authority figure take up a lot of TV time and hurting other people in the process with booking or whatever. AEW could definitely do that. They have quite a few people who could do that. You have Big Show, you have Mark Henry, you have some very legitimate veterans, just being like an agent, a backstage agent who is there on screen for 30 seconds to explain why a match is being booked, right? Like sometimes we'll hear commentary in AEW be like, oh, well, per Tony Khan, this match will be added next week or whatever. Oh, we just got word from Tony Khan that this match is being added to Revolution. Oh, we just got word from Tony Khan. I'm like, that's cool. And I don't have anything against that. I just think having a authority-like figure, some sort of agent who's like, maybe there's a fight happening in the ring after the match. Somebody walks down to the ring, splits them up, and basically says, hey, you guys will settle this next week. Just something simple. You know what I mean? That's more of a preference thing though. For sure. Most definitely. Mr. Corona says, so y'all cool with Roman's 2 to 3 year reign? So yes and no, right? There is exceptions to the rule. Roman Reigns holds the championship belt for a very long time. I personally don't like the idea of the titles being unified. I don't. But also at the same time, too, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I freaking hate it because the storytelling is good. It's the best storytelling that's happened in pro wrestling, not just WWE, but in pro wrestling, at least in the very minimum, the last 10 years. A lot of people might disagree with me on that. I really don't give a shit. But my point that I'm trying to make is that Roman Reigns' 2 to 3 year title reign, it's long. It's like this whole process with Reigns has been detrimental to WWE. And I do not want to see him hold both of those world titles forever. The WWE championship needs to be split up. But if Roman Reigns wants to hold the Universal Championship for another year, I'm okay with it because guess what? The storytelling has just been so damn good. I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. And I'm not being a hypocrite. I think WWE has booked themselves in a corner because of Roman Reigns holding both championship belts. But at the very minimum, at the very least, the titles are being booked and meaningful storylines, and storylines are of the utmost importance to me. But again, it's something that they do need to split up in some capacity. Let's see. We got more comments. Guys, don't forget, if you want to support the channel, the goal is to go Hollywood this year. All super chats and donations go 100% to the Ango WrestleMania Fund. Consider dropping a super chat or buy Ango's merch at ango.live. If you guys want to support the channel, definitely consider doing that. I plan on doing some really cool content in Los Angeles, and that's going to cost money. So if you guys are interested, feel free to do it. If not, no worries. Not a big deal. Go ahead and just click that like button. That always helps as well. Lots of comments. Let's pull up some more. Vashan Taylor. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I do see them introducing a women's tag title with all the women teams on the roster and the focus on Storm and Saraya versus Britt and Hayter feuding. Yeah, actually, I'll be honest with you guys. When it comes to women's tag team championship belts, I think the only company that's really done it right in recent years is Impact Wrestling. I don't think WWE. I think that's a big flaw with WWE under Vince McMahon and under Triple H. I think both scenarios, the women's tag titles in WWE suck. Okay. I also think in Impact, they've done a really good job with it, but Impact is not as big as AEW or WWE. If AEW introduces women's tag titles, I need to know very clear cut who is this women's tag team division. I can't name more than 5 tag teams off my hand, So just for that reason, I would say maybe hold off on it. But I do think eventually it's going to happen. There's been rumors for a while that AEW is definitely going to introduce them. In fact, there was rumors that AEW had actually created the title belts. They just haven't introduced them yet. I wouldn't be opposed to it, right? They're building the women's division very well. The women's division has improved a lot this year, a lot. 2023 has been a very good move. It's been a very good year so far to the AEW women's division. If they're going to introduce them, though, you can't be like WWE. They got to take priority right now. AEW. Do I have the utmost confidence in AEW right now when it comes to women's tag title belts? Honestly, I don't. But at least they got a women's division that is very, very solid. So I would be willing to give it a chance, but perhaps, just perhaps, AEW should just hold off on it just a little bit. Albert Pons just dropped a $5 super chat. A director of authority, perhaps. LOL. Impact might have someone that can help. LOL. Are Saraya and Tony the new outsiders of AEW? It definitely looks like it, right? It definitely looks like AEW has been kind of building the outsiders gimmick for Saraya and Tony Storm. They're doing a great job. They're embracing the gimmick. It's working out very well for them. In fact, I would say AEW and what they've done with Saraya and Tony Storm is working. Plus, what they're doing with Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter is also working. And what they're doing with Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale, it's working. There's a lot of things that they're doing with the women's division that seems to be working. I definitely think when it comes to the director of authority thing, right? Even Santino Marella, he's part of Impact as the DOA. It's a little comedy thing. It's a little fun stuff. It's nothing too serious. It doesn't take away from the show. So there's definitely benefits to having somewhat of an authority figure. I don't want them to do like a Mr. McMahon type of thing, more like Adam Pearce, With that being said, yes, I do agree. Saraya and Tony Storm, they are the new outsiders of AEW, and I like it. By the way, thank you, Albert, for the super chat. Appreciate you, brother. How was the women's division improved? Please tell us. Well, I mean, if you're watching the show, because I know sometimes, people like to troll in the chat and the comments and stuff. But, if you're asking Ango for real, I'll tell you for real. Watch every single week. You got women's stuff happening on TV every single week that sometimes don't even involve the world championship. How has it improved? It's called having storylines that don't necessarily mean having the world championship on the line. It's also having them involved in segments that actually are meaningful and are getting great responses from the crowd. Also, when AEW had Jamie Hayter become the AEW World Women's Championship holder, when she won the title belt, there has been a lot of emphasis on the women outside of Jamie Hayter. And AEW pulled the trigger at the right time because that's what the fans wanted. How has it improved? I mean, if you watch every single week, you can see that they're actually being utilized. They're actually in big stories and they're having big matches. Maybe it's not your cup of tea. Maybe you don't enjoy watching Saraya and Tony Storm and Jamie Hayter and Ruby Soho and all of these different people. Maybe you're not a fan of Allie the Bunny. I'm not sure what you like or don't like, but what I will tell you is women's wrestling on AEW in 2022 was absolutely garbage for the most part. So that, my friends, is why I think there's been an improvement. And yeah, to answer your criticism here of the Bow Wow storyline, what's the payoff to it? I'm not sure. I thought that was garbage, though. I called that out the minute I saw it. So definitely saying it's not perfect. You know how it is. I don't know how to explain it. So Stokely Hathaway is hilarious. What a character. Yeah, it's man, this guy is like a troll, dude. Stokely Hathaway's funny. I personally thought that Stokely it was a good pickup for AEW. I want to see more of the firm though, because I do feel like the firm has not been that great on television. My personal opinion. I'm not in a rush for it to become anything, but I just feel like there's not a lot of hype or excitement with them. Stokely Hathaway should just manage Lee Moriarty, put Lee Moriarty in a nice feud for the TNT championship. You know what I mean? Maybe he's not the biggest name, but using a guy like Stokely can get you there. Definitely a lot of comments here. I'm trying my best to respond. Let's see. Tim Smith, Ango, how do you like AEW lately? You were hating for a while. You come back around. So for the last 8 weeks, I would say towards the end of December, middle of December to now, I feel like AEW has been producing the best television on a week-to-week basis because there's been a lot of continuity, right? So, like, it's something I pointed out earlier with the Guns and the Acclaimed. Like, I understand why there's a mixed response, but that's just because the AEW audience and I really see wrestling differently. But they've been doing a lot of continuity in the last 8 weeks. If you look at what's on TV, a lot of what's been on TV is all of these stories being played out on a week-to-week basis. And for a while, that wasn't happening with AEW. If you watched AEW in 2022, it was like something would happen one week, somebody would debut, and then you wouldn't see them on TV for like 3 weeks, and then they would pick up from where they left off. So I felt like it was one of those things where just like they've improved. It's not perfect, right? It's like I say about WWE. Like right now, WWE and AEW are doing really, really well. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean there's nothing on the show like that. It doesn't mean that there's things on the show that like I wouldn't like that I approve of, right? Like there's certain things obviously you're not going to enjoy about either show, but AEW, and again, I mean, thank God, I say this all the time. Thank God, thousands of videos being uploaded. When somebody thinks I'm a hater, I just have to remind you that like I criticize wrestling for a living. So, and it all comes down to the roots of storytelling, right? And when you see AEW not doing storytelling, they don't get my praise, right? But for the last 8 weeks, what AEW has done, I would say 90% of the show has been built on storytelling. Like tonight, I like the trios match, as I said earlier. I like the in-ring stuff, but me personally, I wasn't too much of a fan of the fact that like they're just wrestling, right? There was no story in it, so it wasn't must see. Was it a great match? Sure. But it's not about being a hater. It's not about being a lover. My job is to literally point out what I think. And sometimes what I think doesn't line up with public perception. But then also at the end of the day, I look at it from a different perspective than most people and really don't give a fuck if people agree or disagree with my wrestling opinions, because my job is not to persuade you into thinking like me. My job as a YouTuber has never been to be like, oh, well, I like WWE. Let me make sure this person likes WWE. That's not what I do, because I don't care if you like WWE or AEW. My job is just to tell you what I think about it in real time. And I stay to a very, very specific core of I prefer storytelling. I like good wrestling. I like good storytelling. There needs to be a middle ground. For the last 8 weeks, AEW has really done that. MJF tonight was a perfect example of that. Everything that's happening with MJF, Roosh, Bryan Danielson, Konosuke Takeshita, right? Like these are great. And the best part is, like, you see some people and like, oh, well, Konosuke lost to MJF. That's some bullshit. They buried him. Like, what? Like, how did he get buried? But that's the problem. People are so caught up on this idea that in the wrestling ring, wins and losses matter. Storytelling matters. Storytelling can justify why somebody wins or loses. So there's some fundamental issues with that. But yeah, no, it's not about coming back around or not coming back around. It's really just about they've really improved in the last 8 weeks. It's not perfect, but also WWE hasn't been that great either. So yeah, for sure. For sure, some good stuff tonight. Also, Tim follows up. He says MJF champion, Guns tag champs, AEW did something right. I think they did, man. I really do feel like they did something right. And you know, the MJF Bryan Danielson stuff has been excellent. I can't wait to see that match at Revolution. But why? It's good storytelling, man. It's really, really good storytelling. Michael asks a very good question. Will TBS Women's Champion Jade Cargill make it to 100-0? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Mr. Corona, $1.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. Nigel McGuinness for AEW or ROH commissioner. I'm sold. 100% I'm sold on this. This would be excellent in my opinion. I feel like this would be a good move. I don't know what the hell is going on with Nigel. I know he left WWE. He got released by WWE. I thought that was a stupid move. I read something online. It had something to do with logistics and living situations and stuff. I don't want to speculate on that because he hasn't publicly spoken about it. But if Nigel McGuinness is willing to come to AEW or WWE, I'm all for it. I think he's a hell of a talent. Loved him as commentary. I would be totally cool with him being a commissioner. And again, I don't want an on-screen authority figure being on the screen, taking up time from everybody. I just want somebody there to, just kind of justify certain things, why things are happening or why things are being booked. And again, there's actually not, just so people understand too, I don't even see an issue with Tony Khan behind the scenes doing it, right? Like I said earlier, when commentary says, oh, Tony Khan just booked this match for next week, like I'm okay with that because that's pretty logical too. This is 100% pure personal preference. If you want somebody there, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I just wouldn't want the commissioner or authority figure to get involved in storylines all the time where, then the focus is on the commissioner. I don't like that, but I definitely would be supportive of this. That's for sure. Thank you, Mr. Corona, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Steven or Stefan, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Brotherton drops a $2 super chat. Jade Cargill needs to lose the TBS championship. Hey man, I'm very, 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 very happy with how they've booked Jade Cargill. She's one of the best. I think right now when it comes to Jade, I wouldn't have her lose the championship unless she drops it to a rising star. Honestly, if there's a rising star, yeah. If she's not a rising star, there's really no point in doing that. So. Also, one thing I would say, I would like to mention this too. Jade is a very talented wrestler, but in the eyes of an AEW fan, she's not for some reason. Jade is probably going to be the massive superstar that comes out of AEW. Like when I think of somebody who's going to go Hollywood and get new eyes on AEW long term, she's going to do that. I'd have them strip the championship or have her vacate the championship and go on to fight for the women's championship, the world championship, which I'd be okay with that too. At some point, she will have to lose, obviously, but whoever she loses to, whether it's for a title or not, I think it's really important that AEW just make sure that somebody gets elevated from it because she actually has a lot of value in her booking. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Tim Smith says, I respect that Ango. Thank you for giving credit where credit is due. I was just hoping your channel stayed neutral and not just one-sided. Now I have hope. Yeah, I mean, you can go back 4 years, 3 years. You can go back and watch when I praised AEW and literally like Albert and Myra and a few other people that stuck with me for a while. They say this all the time. They're like, yeah, I remember when you would go live and just bury WWE. Yeah, that was true, man. There was a time I did a 3-hour live stream for a watch along and I literally complained for 3 hours. So I've always been neutral, but I'm not neutral in the sense of I'm just going to say what people want to hear. Cause there's a lot of fake YouTubers who do that shit. And I don't do that shit. Like I could easily sit here and praise AEW and WWE all the time and just say everything's fucking good. But like, that's just ridiculous, right? That's stupid because at the end of the day, I'm just telling you guys what you want to hear. And that's not me. More comments. Solak drop in a $4.99. I don't see a comment associated with that. Solak dropped a $4.99 and a $1.99. Thoughts on Danielson and MJF feud so far? It's so good. It's so good, man. It is so good. So good. MJF has been absolutely incredible. He's been absolutely incredible in this scenario. MJF and Danielson is really, really, really special feud. It's unpredictable. I don't know. Part of me really, really wants Danielson to win the championship, I swear. But part of me just thinks like MJF is so good, you got to keep the belt on him. I feel like this is one of those scenarios too for AEW where like there is no right or wrong answer. And that's kind of the good thing. I talked about it on Monday. I said, with Roman Reigns, Cody, Sami Zayn, there is no right or wrong. There isn't. I watched that storyline. It's such good storytelling between both parties. And I'm looking at MJF and Danielson, and I feel the same way. There is no right or wrong. If you have Danielson beat MJF, there's nothing wrong with that. If you have MJF beat Danielson, there's nothing wrong with that. The cool thing is MJF is all character work, right? So look at MJF from the perspective of he could just cheat. He can cheat and beat Danielson. And that right there is already a big, big, big move. And that right there is really cool. And I think, when there's no right or wrong, that's how you're truly enjoying a storyline. I think when a lot of people are watching AEW or WWE, they're so keen on saying, oh, well, this way sucks, this way sucks, this way sucks. And obviously you're going to have people who do that because they're just trolling. But I think the people who really truly say that and really mean that, I think when they say something sucks, I think it's just because they're not getting the result that they wanted. I don't look at wrestling by picking favorites. I like both of these guys, right? So what it really comes down to is this. If AEW is doing a good job storytelling, I'm not going to be disappointed. And this has a really good storytelling aspect to it. WWE with Roman Reigns, Cody, Sami, I mean, the storytelling aspect has been so good. It's like, how can I be disappointed? Even if Roman Reigns walks out as champion, even if MJF walks out as champion, I'm okay with that. But that's why characters and stuff has really been important to me, honestly. And to the credit of Danielson, having him even be somewhat associated with Konosuke Takeshita, that's brilliant, dude. This guy is over. He lost tonight, friends. Guys, he lost. Wins and losses matter. No, they fucking don't. They don't matter. Wins and losses don't matter. It's how you do wins and losses. Konosuke's stock only goes up. Why? Because by association, he's dealing with Danielson. Konosuke is benefiting off Danielson and MJF's feud. I loved it, man. This is a very, very good feud, a very good storyline for AEW. I'm super happy to see what happens next. Definitely interested in seeing what happens at Revolution. And I'm more so interested to see if MJF retains, how does he retain? Because MJF always brings in people. MJF's always got somebody fighting his battles. He's always paying people off. So what's the next thing that AEW does? For some reason, and this is a crazy prediction, but I have a very strong feeling that AEW might introduce a new muscle for MJF. Somebody to assist MJF. I think we see that at Revolution. But either way, I'd be okay with both results. Thank you, Solak, for the $1.99 super chat, the $5 super chat. Appreciate you, bro. Cameron Johnson says, yo, I really think that Rampage should be 2 hours and the time slot should be or would be great at 7 p.m. Yeah, for sure. I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree with that. I think 7 p.m. would be better, but we were kind of talking about it in Discord. I just think Friday nights suck for wrestling. The core demographic that Tony Khan is always talking about, the young demographic, they don't really give a shit to watch wrestling on Friday nights. And that's an issue that, like, I think if SmackDown wasn't on Friday nights, they'd have better ratings. I think if Rampage wasn't on at 10 p.m. on Friday nights, I feel like they'd have a better rating. The quality of show, people could talk about ratings all they want, but I think the problem is, like, 99.99% of every single person that's ever left a comment in my video that talks about TV ratings has never worked for a TV network in their life. So it's like, I don't even really entertain those conversations anymore because ratings will go up and down. AEW is going to make a shit ton of money. WWE is going to make a shit ton of money. Why do I care about the ratings? I don't. I care about my entertainment value that I'm getting for wasting my time, right? Because at the end of the day, in life, time is money, my friend. So if you're watching wrestling for 3 hours and it's garbage, you're probably not going to want to watch 3 hours of television. You'd probably rather go do something else, right? Just like AEW doing Rampage on Friday nights. To ask somebody in that core age group, say, hey, stay home. We have a television show at 10 p.m. Man, the people in that age group, they want to go out on Friday nights. So realistically, I can't see a scenario in which they would really be like, oh, well, let me stay home and watch Rampage, But guess what? They're probably going to go back and watch Rampage when they get home at 1 a.m. and they're slumped over because they drank too much. So the reality is, I've always believed that, like, The 7 p.m. time slot would be better than 10 p.m., but ultimately wrestling on Friday, Saturdays suck. And I'm glad that Tony Khan is doing Revolution on Sunday night because I don't want a pay-per-view on Saturday night. I actually don't like Saturday night pay-per-views unless it's during the day. So when WWE did like Crown Jewel or when they did Clash at the Castle and it was on during the day, I'd actually prefer that a little bit more than nighttime. But I do think to a certain extent, and this is where it sucks for Rampage, right? Rampage, where else are you going to put it? You could put it on Thursday nights, but then guess what? Impact and NJPW and all this stuff. It's hard. It's a very difficult thing to fix. We got some more comments, more super chats. Albert Ponce dropping a $5 super chat. I feel AEW fans see her as a sports entertainer that belongs in WWE, but I can see her win them over. But I can see her win them over because she puts in the work training with Brian. I'm guessing this is in regards to Jade Cargill. Yeah, I mean, wrestling is sports entertainment to begin with, but I want to say Jade Cargill is just super talented, man. And the thing is, for AEW fans, if you're one of those fans, if you're one of those fans who are gatekeeping the product and you don't want to see things happen because it doesn't align with whatever the fuck it is. I don't even know how to explain it. But like, if you're one of those people who are like, oh, they shouldn't have mainstream crossover, that's ridiculous, bro. You got to have mainstream crossover. And that's something that AEW has done a really good job with actually as a company. And a lot of that happens because of the fact that they have Warner Brothers Discovery as a TV partner. We saw Murph and Q from Impractical Jokers tonight. It's good to have that crossover. It's really good to have people on AEW show up on other television shows. That's one thing for WWE that's always been massive. You could love or hate WWE. You could think they fucking suck and suck at telling stories. You can hate everything about WWE, but guess what, bro? They got the Bellas doing reality TV shows. You got Miz and Mrs. You got all of this opportunity to expand your audience and expand your growth outside of what happens in the ring. And, I look at TNT, TBS is a great, NBA on TNT promoting AEW. And then you see Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think that's how you pronounce it. You see Giannis, the Greek freak. He shows up, right? So like there is benefits to having that crossover appeal. Jade Cargill is somebody who oozes charisma. She oozes the star power that this company needs. Why not let her do it? It's not like she has a shitty gimmick. It's not like she can't wrestle. She has improved a lot as a wrestler, and she's only going to get better. This idea that people, like, I fucking hate this about wrestling so much, dude, but this idea that people will go into wrestling, into AEW or WWE, and they don't have experience as a wrestler. And wrestling fans, their first impression, the irony here, somebody who's never trained a wrestling match in their fucking life will sit there and be like, oh, Logan Paul shouldn't wrestle or Jade Cargill shouldn't wrestle. They shouldn't be on TV because they didn't put in the blood, sweat, and tears to be a fucking pro wrestler. Like, to me, that was always silly because, like, you're not a pro wrestler. So why does that matter? I've always loved the idea of having new, fresh faces in the wrestling business. Jade Cargill is going to be absolutely successful in this company. Tony Khan knows this. AEW knows this. She's going to win over fans regardless because she gets it. And she's training with Bryan Danielson. So it's just that much better. It's so good. I definitely love it. Thank you, Albert, for the super chat. We got another super chat from Gray Knight Gamer for $1.99. Where are they going with Top Flight, do you think? I don't know, man. I like Top Flight. I like AR Fox. It kind of feels like right now they're keeping them as a trio. I really want Top Flight to be a tag team. I think AR Fox could be good enough as a singles guy as well. So right now, I think what AEW is doing and what I want them to do are two different things. I think AEW is 100% sold on them being a trio team, which is fine. If they end up taking the titles from the Elite one day, that would be cool too. I mean, these guys are really talented. The problem is I don't know what their identity is. I don't know what they are, right? They're just good wrestlers. So I do have a little bit of a harder time connecting to them, but I can't sit here and deny that they're fucking talented. Like, they're really good at what they do. I would rather see Top Flight just dominate the tag team division. There's a lot of tag teams out there that they could have great matches with, within time, hopefully we'll get an idea. Unfortunately, they lost tonight. They now have a 1-1 record in 2023. So my guess is that this is going to be a scenario where, honestly, Top Flight is just going to be doing good matches and having highlight reels until they're putting something meaningful. Thank you, Gray Knight Gamer, for the super chat. Appreciate it. We got so many comments and so many different stuff to respond to. Give me a second. I probably need some moderators in this chat. That would be a really good idea. You know what I mean? Michael says Logan Paul, the podcaster, can't stand him. Logan Paul, the wrestler, full respect. When he is in the ring, he just goes like it's what he was meant to do. Yeah, and this is 100%. This is 100% true. I don't really care for Logan Paul on a personal level, right? That's just based on my personal beliefs and stuff like that. I just, some of the things I hear him say, the way he acts, like it's just not something I necessarily jive with. But I can separate a wrestler and the person outside of that, you know. So it's like Logan Paul and what he does, you know, it's respectable to see that he's grown prime and he's doing his thing and he's built a lot of equity outside of boxing and YouTube and everything. But he goes into a wrestling ring and he does really good. I think that's really important for WWE. Any current wrestler that you could see crossover into boxing, like I could see Sammy Guevara take part in Misfits boxing event. Well, we saw Bobby Fish do it, and he's actually not that bad. So, you know, there's actually quite a few people. I think Sammy Guevara could take part in it. Would he be good or bad? I don't know, but he would have the personality to definitely fit into what it is, right? For those who don't know what Misfits boxing is, KSI has like his own little, I don't know what they call it in boxing. Is it a promotion or management group or something like that? I do like Sammy Guevara possibly doing it one day. It could be fun. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff. I could see John Moxley doing an MMA fight for sure. I can see, but when it comes to boxing, I think there a lot of people can do it. You know, if you're looking at professional boxing versus like the influencer stuff, anybody can do it. If you're thinking of like professional boxing on like a true scale, I think realistically, like, and this is where like I gotta be careful who I pick and choose because who I like and who I think could be good would be two different things. So, for example, just as an example, Bobby Lashley did MMA, right? And I thought he was good in MMA. I could see Bobby Lashley crossing over into boxing or MMA and being somewhat decent at it. But I don't want to say that. And then Bobby Lashley actually does it and gets his ass kicked. So I don't know who could. I think a lot of people could cross over because a lot of selling boxing fights is entertainment. These wrestlers get that. But how would their skills translate to an actual boxing ring? That's a good question. In terms of the influencer stuff, Sammy Guevara for sure can do it. Grayson Waller for sure can do it. There's a lot of people who are just fucking hilarious in wrestling where it's like I could see it happening. So yeah. Impact Wrestling guy says, as Ango said, not every storyline in WWE isn't all that great. Yeah, I mean that's there's no such thing as a perfect show A to Z. If that's what you're expecting, I don't know. There's very, 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 it's very wishful thinking to have perfect wrestling shows. I don't expect that. But lately, seriously, when I say this, lately in the last 8 weeks, AEW has been really, really good. Maybe one or two things I would change or one or two things I would take away from weekly television. WWE for the last 6 months has been really, really good. But again, there's also some stuff that also wasn't that good too. So again, I try to look more at the positives, but of course you can, there's so much to dissect. You know what I mean? Why do wrestling fans of one company hate to see the other company succeed? Great question. Why? I don't know. I think it's stupid. I never understood that. Sometimes I'll scroll on Facebook and I see like these random things that pop up in my algorithm, and it's like, oh, WWE, AEW, blah 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 blah. Why? Why is there? People already look at wrestling fans. I don't get it either, but people look at wrestling fans in a negative way, anyways. Why would you try to stop people from potentially enjoying what you enjoy? Like, for me, it's like I was talking about the trios match tonight, right? It's not for me, but I get why other people love it. I totally get it. I enjoy the good wrestling, you know what I mean? I care more about stories, but that was a great match, right? Why would you not want somebody to like I don't fucking get this about wrestling. I showed one of my friends, and it's so funny. I showed one of my friends the news about WWE bringing SummerSlam to Detroit, and he doesn't watch wrestling. He never gets it. And I told him, I was like, hey, get ready. I'm taking you to SummerSlam. He's like, you're really going to make me go to that? I was like, 100%. I said, you'll respect it more when you see it. And then he just started watching some stuff on television. He goes, oh, this is sick. I was like, yeah, it's sick. Oh, what if, but it is fake though, right? Yeah, like, bro, it's, these wrestlers aren't going to go in the ring and try to fucking actually kill each other. You know what I mean? They don't try to, AEW and WWE don't try to tell you that it's real. And he asked me, he's like, so what's the difference between AEW and WWE? I said, WWE's focus is more on like characters, right? AEW's focus is more on how good a wrestler actually is. And I told him this, and he's like, he started watching AEW and he watched WWE. He's like, you could tell they're two very different products, but in the same way, they're very similar. That's how somebody who doesn't watch wrestling viewed AEW and WWE. Guys, he doesn't care about which ones people enjoy more or less. He watches both of them now. I literally converted my friend, and I didn't even have to take him to SummerSlam yet. This happened within days. So just keep that in mind. The idea of hating to see other people succeed or other people like there's not a one way that's one size fits all. One way is the right way. Like people are going to enjoy different things about wrestling for sure. Cameron Johnson dropping a $2 super chat. Bobby Lashley did do MMA. He did. Yeah. And he was actually pretty damn good at it. I would have loved to see more of it. When he was in Impact, he was doing some stuff. I think it was Bellator, if I remember correctly. But that was a really that was like a really cool thing, honestly. I wish they did more of it. But now he's a little bit older too. There's probably a little bit more risk. And then obviously, Bellator, Bellator is really weird. They have like this deal with Viacom, CBS, but then they're like on Showtime. And I think their pay-per-view and like TV distribution model is weird. But Bobby Lashley was pretty good. I think it would really not make sense for him to go unless it was in the UFC, right? WWE might get some benefits. He might get some benefits from doing UFC, but maybe the time has already passed. You know what I mean? Thank you, Cameron, for the super chat. Appreciate you, bro. Really do. Tons of comments. Great stuff. That's a really good observation from somebody who has never been a fan of the product. Yeah, I mean, literally, my friend, like, he literally always told me, like, oh, I don't know how you watch that shit. But when I explained to him, I was like, WWE and AEW don't try to tell you that wrestling is real. They don't try to tell you that they don't try to tell you it's like a real competitive sport between two people who are really going to wrestle. Dude, they don't do that. They are trying to, it's a whole world of its own. They're trying to get you obsessed with the idea of the good guy versus the bad guy. And they're going to tell a story with that. And when they tell you the story of the good guy versus the bad guy, what's really cool is there's going to be elements like video packages and backstage segments and in-ring wrestling. And all of it together will tell a story, and it'll transpire to eventually what ends the story. And when I explained this to him, he literally got hooked on it. It is the funniest thing. He literally got hooked on it. He's like, oh, dude, he's like, when you told me about SummerSlam, he's like, I immediately shut it down. He's like, but you told me I had to watch some AEW and some WWE. I sent him all the links to things. And just the idea for him was, hey, this is actually like, it's like watching a movie, bro. But there's stuff in the ring that happens. Keep in mind, this was somebody who hated wrestling. He hated the idea of it. He didn't grow up with it. He didn't watch it. He knew about The Rock because The Rock went Hollywood. He knew about all these other people because they went Hollywood, but he didn't know what wrestling entailed. He thought that people viewed AEW and WWE. He thought people viewed professional wrestling as like an actual competitive sport. No different than the NBA or UFC or something like that. I was like, no, that's not how it's viewed. We like to see wrestling try to keep kayfabe alive, but we're all pretty smart. So when I showed him all this stuff, and I showed him specifically, I showed him MJF versus CM Punk. I told him he had to watch that match. By the way, he didn't watch the build-up for that match, which was an incredible pay-per-view build-up, one of the best that AEW has ever had. But he watched that match, and he's like, oh, I can tell this is really good. And I'm like, what makes you think that? I asked him, I said, what makes you think that? What makes you think this is really good? He's like, the match is violent, but the commentary. I said, what about the commentary? He's like, the commentary really emphasized the story without me even knowing what the story is. And I said, there you go, my friend. Bingo. Wrestling 101. That's why commentary is so important, by the way. So just kind of keep that in mind when it comes to wrestling. This is why wrestling fans need to stop gatekeeping wrestling. This is why wrestling fans need to stop being tribalism. They need to stop with the tribalism bullshit because they literally are stopping other people from enjoying what they enjoy. Like, why? I want my friends to see what I enjoy because it's my job. When my friends hit me up, by the way, and they say, hey, Ango, can you come out tonight? I say no because I'm watching NXT or I'm watching this. I'm doing this. I'm on Discord. I'm making videos. They didn't understand what I do, right? But the more and more that I showed them how tapped in I am to wrestling, and then I make them watch it, they totally understood. They understand why wrestling fans love wrestling. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to go out of their way every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to watch wrestling, right? That wouldn't make sense. But the idea is that if I told my friend, hey, I'm having people over for AEW Revolution, in the past, I wouldn't be able to invite him because he doesn't watch it. He doesn't get it, right? But if I told him, hey, he'll know enough of what's happening to where he'll want to watch it. That's pretty fucking sick, to be honest. Honestly, like, that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a very cool thing. Cameron likes that too because he says that's dope about your homie. Welcome to the community. Dude, it's funny. It's funny because, again, he just didn't understand it. To him, it was not something that made sense. He did not get it whatsoever. But now he's like, and it's not like he's obsessed with it or he's hooked about it, but now he gets it so much where he's like, yo, like, this is like actually kind of cool. So it goes back to what I was saying, right? Why would you not want Jade Cargill to be successful? Why would you not want somebody to be successful? At the end of the day, more people get their eyes on wrestling, the more people like it. You can enjoy it with more people. It's like the one thing in the fucking world that I never understood with wrestling fans. Like they just don't want the casual shit. I don't know. And I'm telling you, I showed it to somebody who, by the way, I showed him both products and he said they're both dope. It's fucking beautiful, that's for sure. Dragon Den says, same situation where my mom and sister aren't really wrestling fans, but they are Jade Cargill fans. They don't care if she can't do 5-star matches. They love her and buy her merch. That's massive. That right there is a point proven. That's exactly why it's important to have people with that crossover appeal. Bro, what's that show? Chris Jericho did it. Somebody might have to correct me. I think it was like The Masked Singer or The Singer in the Mask or whatever. It's like on Fox or something. I forgot. But they had Chris Jericho in it. Now, granted, Chris Jericho is a big name outside of AEW. He was a big name because of WWE, but he's currently in AEW. You can do that with Ricky Starks. You can do that with a lot of people, dude. Which is cool. It's cool you can do this type of stuff. Ricky Starks has that crossover appeal. Jade Cargill, right? There's a lot of people in AEW who have it. Anthony Bowen, fucking great talent. I hope that guy, bold prediction, by the way, random. I hope he goes Hollywood one day because he would kill it. He would be really good in Hollywood. He would be really, really good in Hollywood. By the way, like, I genuinely mean this when I say it because I just see how talented he is. One day he could be a world champion. You might see him right now as a tag team guy, but one day I see Anthony Bowens being like world champion material. That's the beauty about wrestling, man. There's a lot of possible crossover appeals. There's a lot of possibility. Just because you're on TBS network doesn't mean you can't expand your horizons. And I would want as many people as possible one day to watch The Masked Singer and be like, oh, who is, hypothetically, oh, Anthony Bowens is on The Masked Singer, or Anthony Bowens is on he's on Dancing with the Stars. Oh, who's that guy? They say he's an AEW wrestler. Imagine they say he's an AEW wrestler. What's AEW wrestling? Now you tune into AEW wrestling, you watch Anthony Bowen, and you're like, wow, this guy's great. Oh, that's really cool. Now you start tuning in Wednesdays. That's the freaking point. So there's a lot of talented people. I love it. Super exciting stuff. Henry Martin dropped a really good comment too. Jack Hager. No, it's Jake Hager. Jack Swagger, aka Jake Hager. He could be a decent boxer. Better wrestler. He's done some really cool stuff in Bellator as well. I don't know when he's going to wrestle again. Or wrestle. I don't know when he's going to do MMA again, but he could very well be a decent boxer too. And he's been punched, right? He's been punched and he's been brutally hit in Bellator. So he would be pretty decent. And because he's part of Jericho Appreciation Society, he can be really good. Albert says, did anyone notice Excalibur was already selling the guns win? I hope there is a plan in place for the story. Yeah, brother. It's just like you said earlier with the Super Chat. It's make or break for them. But I love it. I love the guns winning. I support it for sure. For sure. Raj says, I am the only one that watches wrestling in my village. Brother, show them wrestling. Show it to them. You know, the thing is, too, it's not even so much about being diehard, right? Like, we're all diehard. We sit here on YouTube, Discord, Twitter. We talk about wrestling because we really, really enjoy it. My goal isn't to get my friends in that same realm, right? It's too much. There's a lot of stuff. I'm constantly reading comments, Twitter, Discord, YouTube, streaming, talking, videos, all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I do with wrestling, right? Wrestling consumes like 90% of my life. I don't want my friends to do that. But one thing that is cool, if there's a pay-per-view, bring them together, man. Order some pizza, order some wings, or make some food, have some beers. Wrestling is cool. It brings people together, and it brings all walks of life together. And I think that's a really special thing. Mr. Krona says it's like he's afraid to make crossover stars because he don't want to lose them to WWE. This is in regards to Tony Khan. And yeah, I mean, that's where WWE being built as a sports entertainment brand is really beneficial to them, honestly. I think Ricky Starks is the next one to go to WWE. Either way, he's going to be successful in both companies. MLW Sweet, I thought Fatu is a heck of a wrestler. He's great. He's great, man. I don't know exactly what they're going to do with him, but he's really, really cool. I like Fatu, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, that's kind of away from AEW. But yeah, ultimately, great episode by AEW, guys. I thought everything was pretty solid. I thought everything was enjoyable to watch. I want to know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you guys joining me. We're going to call it. It's been a little bit over an hour. Got to go watch Kyrie Irving play for the Mavs. Got to watch, I got to get some content done, but got a lot of stuff in the works, my friends. I appreciate you all for stopping by. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. Again, if you guys want to support the channel, maybe you're watching this after the fact, not a big deal. The plan is to go to WrestleMania. All super chats and donations are 100% going to that. Planning on working with other content creators and interviews and everything like that. So if you guys want to actually support, if you have the means to do so, feel free to drop a super chat or super thanks or anything like that. Lots of great things. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.